So I'm here with my good friend Claire. Khaw, how do you say it?
Core.
Khaw.
Core.
After all this time, I don't really use your surname. She's a secular Koranist, so she's not a Muslim. Agnostic, would you describe yourself that way? And she believes that the Islamic laws in the Quran are the best laws in the world. They can't be beaten. And she wants to promote them in the West as legally binding. She describes it as Sharia for non-Muslims. People have a pretty terrible idea of what Sharia is. Sharia is many things, including Sharia just basically means a religious law, and in practice it means being kind to your mum, sharing your food with your neighbours. But it also means, like, if you commit a crime, like stealing, you might have your hands chopped off, depending on if you are willing to feel sorry for what you did and things like that. So, Claire, why do you think the Quranic laws are the best laws for society?
Because I think they fulfill the condition of being proportionate. So, and by proportionate, I mean things like an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, a limb for a limb, a life for a life. And I know people go all, we'll all be blind and toothless and limbless if we carry on like this. But I think at some level, however liberal we like to pretend we are, we want to think that somebody who has hurt us has been punished in a way that we think is appropriate and just. And if we think that they got away with it and they're not afraid of the law because the punishment is so lenient, then they won't be afraid of the law and they'll be criminals and maybe even lifelong criminals and regard the time spent inside prison as a nice holiday from the world, watching TV, playing pool, going to the gym, or whatever we hear that prisoners get up to in a well-run prison. And maybe even getting mobile phones and drugs delivered. Who knows? So I think the idea of proportionality is something, is an idea that should be familiar to anyone who is legally trained, as I am. So I just don't see why anyone would disagree with that. Do you disagree with that, Khalid? Have I said anything wrong?
No, it sounds very reasonable. I think the hard thing is to show that the Sharia is better than any legal system out there. But I just want to not just say that I disagree with anything you say. I think I've seen societies where the law is tough, like where I'm living in Jordan at the moment. That's why I'm not always at Speaker's Corner, because I'm living in another country called Jordan. And we have tough laws, and the result is zero crime. Pretty much zero crime. Mothers, grandmothers with their little children go out midnight to parks and things with no fear of anything bad happening to them, which means you really enjoy society, feel comfortable, whereas over here in London I wouldn't dream of coming here at midnight, and definitely not with my 4-year-old or something,
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful thing to feel safe. So yeah,
Okay.
so it's good to have tough crime, so you punish the criminals rather than indirectly punishing the innocent by not being tough on crime. But at the same time, the Quranic law, just to support that, it's a law that says if you repent, if you make amends, then we should try to be merciful.
Indeed. So even the punishment of manual amputation has the option of mercy, because if the thief repents, you don't cut off his hand. And maybe he does it a second time, you think, well, maybe he wasn't sincere. If he does it a third time, then he was obviously lying, and then he deserves a punishment. And you could interpret it as not stealing a loaf of bread or some minor thing, because, what you could do is make the thief pay back twice the value of what he stole, and legal fees, etc., and make this punishment apply only to people who use violence to rob, muggers, bank robbers, that kind of thing, or people who hurt other people in the course of their crime. So I don't see anything unjust about it. And on the question of proportionality, I was talking earlier to a Jew, and we know how harsh the punishment of the Torah are. There are 36 capital offences, and if they take their law seriously, breaking the Sabbath attracts death by stoning. And
Now that simply means like switching the lights on or something, or
picking up sticks on a Saturday. So they have many, many laws. They have 613 laws which they can't, obey after. Now that the second temple was destroyed. So in practice, a lot of these Jews ignore all the rules, and when you ignore all the rules, what happens is, it just becomes optional, and when it becomes optional, people opt not to obey them, and that is the problem. From the legal training that I do remember, you're supposed to clear out the rules that are no longer enforced because they're anachronistic, or and the thing is, it's not done properly in this country. In theory, there are still there are no blasphemy laws, but treason is still a capital offence. So they could just, revive it, without, but it was never repealed. So, we have the option. So we don't know what they can do. And a lot of these laws that are deliberately left on the shelf is done for the purpose of making people not sure about what their rights are. And it's, I'm afraid, deliberate. And we should take care. And I think, if this country were to adopt Sharia, there would be, this wonderful process of spring cleaning where we just go through all the acts of parliament and say, is this act of parliament in keeping with the principles of the Quran or not? And then those that are kept, and those that are not are repealed. And I think that would increase the likelihood of all of us receiving justice.
And for people who think this might be just theoretical, secular Koranism, or using Quranic laws and never been tested, I think the fundamentals of the American Constitution are based on some Quranic laws, like freedom of religion, which is actually a relatively new idea. Am I wrong?
Yes, I do go on in my book, Secular Koranism, that chapter 2, verse 256 of the Quran, that says, there is no compulsion in belief, truth stands clear from error, actually supports the First Amendment, and this was what Thomas Jefferson used to pass the First Amendment, because he, in 1765, when he was a law student, ordered a copy of the Quran, a translation by George Sale, and he obviously read it. He's not one of those people who buy books and never read them, because we know that there's a record that he read it before negotiating with the Barbary pirates, who were at the time causing problems for American shipping. So he did read the book. We know that he drafted the Virginia Statute of Religious Freedom, which later became the First Amendment. So, and really, the Quran is the only religion, the only holy book that actually talks about freedom of belief and freedom of expression. Because actually, if you read the Quran carefully from beginning to end, there is no mention of blasphemy.
Yeah, there's a common misconception that if you leave Islam, you'll be killed for it or something. That's actually against the teachings of Islam. Literally, I mean, if you want to debate it, all you have to do is go to the Quran. What does it say? And if the Quran's against what you're saying, like you're claiming that you leave Islam and you'll be killed, or even if a Muslim, or even a famous YouTuber says it doesn't matter. If the Quran's against that famous YouTuber, You have to ignore the famous YouTuber and stick with the teaching of the Quran. Um,
Yes, and thank you for mentioning that, because I remember a Muslim years ago, when I was campaigning with the BNP against him in East London in one of the elections. He said to fight Muslims, use the Quran, because that's the only way to defeat their arguments. And I think the presumption is that a lot of Muslims do not follow their own principles, and that is why things don't go quite right for them. I mean, the point to remember is that the Quran is the only holy book in the whole wide world that actually gives people this inalienable human right. Because in the Declaration of Independence, there is a mention of the Creator who gave Americans, apparently, their inalienable right to freedom of belief. And it's actually true, because even if we have a totalitarian society that says you must say this, you must never say that, what's going to happen is that we will, in our minds, even if we're forced to say something, we don't believe it, and if we're forced not to say something, we still don't agree with the person saying we can't say a certain thing. So I think it's important to understand that even if there are terrible penalties for saying certain things, we can still choose to pay the price if we believe that good will be rewarded and evil punished. And I think what we were trying to establish with the two guests with you earlier was that it, in order to actually make people do the right thing, they have to believe that good will be rewarded and evil punished.
and it's hard to have that belief without believing there's going to be a God, because only God can, make that happen. Because we're not all powerful. There's all sorts of crimes that can be unpaid in this life or the next, and only God can guarantee that.
Yes, because I mean, we can be an atheist and say, well, we don't see much justice, in the world, and we will just have to assume that the powerful do what they like, the strong do what they like, and the weak suffer as they must. And if we believe that, then we won't do the right thing, because we'll be afraid of being, threatened, or we might be bribed, and we won't do the right thing. But if enough of us believe that good will be rewarded and evil punished, then we're more likely to do the right thing. And bring about a society that has laws that give justice.
And it's peaceful, and you'd actually enjoy living in it. Do you know what I mean? That's the result of justice. It's not an empty goal. It's actually so that we're actually happier. And if we don't have justice, then we have rising knife crimes. Just to bring it back to the original topic, like if
Hatred,
fair hatred,
Islamophobia, and anti-Semitism. Because I think anti-Semitism has become a kind of belief system. It's an unofficial belief system that if you just say, well, I don't think the Jews are to blame for everything, there'll be people very angry with you. Can't you tell? Don't you know? And all that sort of thing. And I think it's unhealthy, because a lot of people just can't decide who they hate more, Jews or Muslims, and it's just like you don't have to hate either of them.
Yeah. So if we're thinking about, is Sharia, when I say Sharia, that's a very wrong term, because Sharia just means a religious law. So the Jews have their own Sharia, the Christians have a Sharia, and all this kind of stuff. How does it compare? You've already compared it essentially. We compared it to the Judaic law. Then there's the Christian law, which is offer the other cheek. I'm not sure if that's a practical law. Do you know what I mean? So
I mean,
if somebody murders you, do they say murder my daughter instead? Murders my son, do I say murder my daughter as well?
Yes, if you have twins, you murder my one of my twins, murder the other twin. I mean, it's crazy and extremist and not practical. And this chap who was there earlier was saying he thought that Sharia was sort of unrealistic or undivine, because it took into account all the legalistic arguments and I thought that's actually a good sign, because God kind of, if He exists, has taken it into account how people would argue about these things.
Sure. Just to be specific, so people can understand, he was concerned that you needed four witnesses for things like adultery or homosexual behavior and things like that. And we were saying, well, God has made us logical, and therefore His law should be logical, including witnesses. You can't just have people claiming anything they want. So it's a very practical law, and for people who haven't read the Quran, it is very logical.
Yes, because it has due process. It's not like, the moment somebody is accused, he's guilty. No need for a trial. No need for any due process. So, but even just having laws, eventually people will cotton on that. Perhaps it's not fair to just accuse somebody and assume they're guilty. They should have a right to self defense and say they didn't do it, and offer evidence and alibis and arguments, etc. So just by having these rules, we create a legal system that has become as advanced as it is in the West. And it would be a shame to give it up and not use it properly, because I think
Give what up?
Give up this system that could give us justice, but is currently not giving us justice because the people at the top don't agree with us.
And the system you're talking about is Sharia or Quranic laws.
The legal system is basically a court system, a legal system, precedents, statute and whatever. But I'm saying things could still go wrong if the laws are evil, if the laws tell you to do bad things and forbid you from doing good things.
So you're saying, like, let's say the British legal system, we're not gaining the full benefit because there are lots of flawed laws, old laws that aren't really applied, like you said, about treason and things like that. So endless problems. Mm-hmm. And so we need to get the benefit of the legal system, we need good laws, and maybe we clear out some of the useless ones and bring in Sharia law or some sort of general cleaning out, revitalizing of the legal system.
Oh, that would be so lovely, because I think it would be fun for lawyers, I think, to say, which law, does this act of parliament, is it in harmony with Quranic principles or against them? And I think it would be a useful exercise, because I think there's a lot in the Quran that's actually obviously useful, and I think it's really a very reasonable document, and the reason why I think so many people associate Sharia with harshness is because I think the Quran is so liberal and forgiving that Muslims over the ages thought, no, we want to punish them more. Let's punish them more in the Hadith, and that's why in the Hadith you find all these harsh laws.
Like stoning, which is not in the Quran, or killing. Is there any killing directly for sexual misbehavior? I don't think so. Just lashes.
Well, there's crucifixion, which is quite nasty, but then even then the Quran says if the rebel surrenders before you capture him, forgive him.
Yeah.
But yes, there is a rather gruesome.
I never knew there's crucifixion in the Quran.
You cut one arm here and one leg.
I'll have to check that out. That'll be interesting. Maybe you can share that verse with me later on. And people might be wondering, why isn't let's say the Torah or the New Testament part of the Bible legalistic? Because they were supposed to be tribal laws, and they didn't have freedom of faith, because you only follow those laws if you belong to that faith. But Prophet Muhammad, for example, took care of people who are not Muslims. So when he was in charge, the first time he was in charge of anything was in Medina. He was made in charge of that city, and he let the Jews follow their own law, the Muslims follow their own law, and I think maybe the third group was pagans or something. They got to follow their own law, but they had to follow a law strictly. So I think maybe Prophet Muhammad was the first, in many ways, secular prophet, because he took care of people who are not within his remit of just their religion.
Yes, I think the Prophet Muhammad was a successful political and military leader. So this seems to me, heroic and practical. But Christians, for some reason, prefer to worship a man who was executed. So I don't know what that's all about. I think it's really a kind of cultural affiliation that shows that they want to reject the Quran for their own personal cultural identitarian reasons. And I think that can be attributed to chauvinism, racism, pride, refusal to admit mistakes. As for Christians,
So what you're saying, in short, is that the Quran should be more popular, but people have got their own, let's say, prejudices, and not just prejudices. They don't like that it came from a non-white place, the Middle East, and so they're essentially racist, and they don't like the idea of adopting the religion. That's why they're resistant to it. But they're not all that resistant. Remember that Islam's the fastest growing religion in the West.
Yes, because anti-Semitism is very specific. It means hatred of the Semitic peoples, and Jews and Arabs are Semitic people. So I think anti-Semitism was basically Christians, angry at Jews and Muslims for not accepting or worshipping the Trinity. I think originally that was really the reason for the hatred, and not so much based on race. It's sort of, they don't accept our God, and that's why we hate them.
Yeah, people like just to be in charge and stay in charge, and things to be the way they like it. Just somehow to round this off, we are asking a really hard question, which is Sharia law better than every other possible law? That's quite a hard thing to do, but let's compare it to the British legal system at the moment. How would you compare Quranic law against the British system? I would say the British system is failing badly, like you pointed out, that first of all, it's soft on crime, and it's so soft on crime that people actually prefer to be in prison because they get 3 square meals, they get table tennis, whatever, all their basic needs met. TV, they don't actually want to leave, a lot of them.
Yes, so I think it's necessary to understand that Christians don't really have any codified principles. And by that I mean, a list of laws. So the Jews have it, like, 10 commandments. Like Christians think that, those belong to them, but actually, it comes from the Torah.
You can listen in.
And then 13 principles of Judaism, 7 no-hide laws. These lists you can reel off. But if you ask Christians what Christian principles are, there's nothing new in it. They might say love thy neighbor, but that comes from the Torah as well. The only principle that they can all agree on is that we worship the Trinity, but they don't really worship the Trinity, because the Trinity is the belief that Jesus is God, and they don't really even believe in God. So it's all a confused mess inside their minds. But since they're operating on hatred and fear, you can't get much sense out of them.
Cool. I think we've shared a lot of interesting thoughts. Thank you very much, Claire. It's great talking to you in real life, and good. Hope maybe carry on the conversation online in our live stream. So do check out our live streams. We have lots of conversations. Claire's the one who has a picture like she's a niqab, Muslim lady, essentially. Why do you do that? Let's just finish off with that.
Well, it's a branding thing, because I know that I'm not Muslim, but I like the Quran. I think it should be the basis of laws, because I think it's fair enough. And the only way to do it is to kind of make the point that even a non-Muslim woman who is legally trained, and also a political activist, can see the nature and purpose of following a set of laws that's supposed to come from the hypothetical supreme authority. And if he exists, he is the divine lawgiver.
And I think there's a natural thing where you don't like to put your face on camera, and I'm not saying that's an insult. I think women are more sensitive to their appearance, and could be another reason why you do that. And you could have put a picture of yourself as your, I don't know what they call it, while you're on live stream, but you don't do that either. You do like to kind of protect your appearance, as it were, and I think that's natural, and it comes from Islam. And just to say, Islam is a very natural religion that takes in human nature and the differences between men and women.
Yes. I suppose I think I have a face for radio, and I don't
That's
want to
not
be
true, but
putting up,
it's very unkind. And go on.
and so the reason I don't put my face is it's like I don't want to put makeup on and stuff just to talk to people, so I can just and you don't really need to see me, you just need to listen to my words, and
So you essentially agree with the Islamic idea of covering up, women covering up.
yes, I think the hijab.
You might not do it because you don't want to stand out.
Wearing a hijab,
Sure.
Because
Yeah.
women have a lot of bad hair days, and so sometimes they just want something to cover up their hair.
Yeah. But it's a bit hard to go against the grain and go with a headscarf. Maybe when 90% of the women are all covered up, you might copy.
Sorry, what was the question again?
So maybe the reason why you don't do full niqab and whatever like you do on the videos is because it's a bit uncomfortable socially.
Yeah, and also, I mean, the whole, niqab thing is to be a little mysterious, and I think, women do need to be a little mysterious, and if you show everything, well, then nobody cares well, they're not interested, are they?
Yeah.
If a woman just sort of wears barely anything, people will think things of her.
Yeah, that's a whole different interesting discussion. And I think women are unaware of what men think of them. They get confused. I mean, this is a bit of a sidetrack, but let's go into it a little bit. When I go to the Middle East, where people do wear loose clothing, and there are lots of Christians there as well, and they wear loose clothing as well. And when I come back here, and everybody's wearing skin-tight clothes, where you can see their backsides, they're wearing, especially women. It looks really savage, quite frankly, and it doesn't look alluring, but it might do to a few men, and so women get the wrong impression that men like essentially people who are just naked and showing themselves open to everybody. But I think there's a lot of problems with that. Like, men like to keep women to themselves, as it were. Like, that's my wife, I don't want her body parts on display to every other man and stuff like that. I don't think it's very nice. And just to point out, like, a bit more in fashion, for some reason there are really fat women who wear these, I don't know what they call it, tights and things, where their pants are showing through it, and it looks really disgusting. And I'm not anti-fat people, like, I'm not anti anybody. I think people should stay healthy, but I think women are really unaware of what is bad fashion, and so they think just showing all your bits is, I don't know, good somehow.
I think they're just sort of conforming to what I guess average women wear, and there is no need for it because in many ways, I mean, what's the point of wrapping a present? You wrap a present to make it seem mysterious and worth opening. Well, if you just give something unwrapped, they might not appreciate it as much.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like the point you made, kind of, that women wear what is good for average women. In fact, they're good. They're actually wearing fashion designed for very skinny size 0 women on catwalks, who have been described as looking like pre-pubescent boys, because like they don't really have breasts or anything, they don't really look anything like normal women, so that fashion generally doesn't work. And what happens is women just tend to copy. They don't really have I don't think they're the best at, they might think they're good at fashion sense, but I think they're not so great at it, and they just copy other people. And women are really bad at telling other women if they look terrible or not. They say, oh, you look great, even if you look terrible, because women are just agreeable.
Yeah, it's only your mum who'll say to the daughter, "Are you really going out dressed like that?"
Yeah. So, and just to tie it back with Sharia law, that is actually part of Sharia law to wear loose clothing, which is kind of alluring to men, bit mysterious, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because men are such sex maniacs. They probably think, "Ooh, a woman, in a burqa, wow," that kind of thing, without even caring what she actually looks like. Because sometimes they just get turned on at the idea of a woman.
Yeah, and just to have some curves is actually a good thing. Not to be totally skinny is horrible. I think we're coming back here. Everybody's like overly skinny. I think in terms of women. And so the good things about wearing loose clothing is kind of works with the curves, right? I'm not going to go into too much fashion kind of stuff, but it does make like this. If you have a comparison between a relatively fat woman wearing tights where her pants are sticking through it, and it looks like like tires as they call it. You know what I mean? Like sticking through your pants because it looks horrible. Whereas if she was wearing slightly loose clothes, flowing clothes, she would actually look really good.
Yes, there's certain dress designers who actually design clothes for women, like, you want to accentuate your waist, the A-line skirt, all kinds of ideas that I think heterosexual dress designers would bear in mind when they design clothes. But then there's been, this sort of fashion for gay men to design clothes for women, and gay men, I guess, have a certain preference for a certain kind of look. A woman who looks like a man, or a skinny woman with no boobs. And so that's something to be considered about gay men who are dress designers for women who they don't really care about, maybe.
Yeah. Thank you very much. That was an interesting conversation. Thank you, Claire, as always.
For having me. Thank you.